I leaned back on the sofa for the time being, crossing my arms and trying to think it over, resting my head back and beginning to stare up at the ceiling that seemed like a mile away. The size of this room really did bother me. It seems like one headache after another, I said, looking back up towards my father, sitting across from me on the opposite sofa. I thought things would be more peaceful once I got into Newgate City. And now you drop the bomb of these tech freaks on me. What the hell even are they? Well, to be honest, I don't really know, son, my father said, scratching at his thick goatee for a short time. Trust me, I've put every effort into finding some piece of information about them. But, as of right now, I have Bupkis. That little flare that you saw at the end, when they burst into flames, that isn't just for show. Apparently it happens to every single part of them, right down to their individual cells. They simply self-destruct down to the cellular level. They burn away to nothing. There isn't even enough DNA left to confirm that they were ever human to begin with. We have nothing. We can't confirm an identity, race, origin, nothing. Once the tech freaks go down, they leave no evidence behind. Maybe the tech freaks themselves are nothing but monstrosities, but whoever's creating them, and from whatever they're creating them with, they're intelligent. Enough so to create some sort of safeguard within their construction, and that makes this complete and utter decimation of their being possible, and leaving us with no evidence. I've even tried tracking shipments of nanites, measuring weights, to ensure that none of biotech's nanites are being utilized. And everything checks out. As far as all of our records are concerned, not a single nanite has gone astray. And as far as it's supposing to be safe within the walls of Newgate City, normally that would be an apt assumption. These tech freaks are not something that has been around for a long time, son. They've only begun to appear within the last year. And as far as objectives, the only thing we can discern is that, for whatever reason, they despise biotech and call us frauds, as you heard in the recording. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't bring that, as I told you that they said in the recording. But none of their attacks even seem to make any sense. So far, every tech freak attack has happened in a seemingly innocuous location. Nothing that would drastically affect biotech itself. They haven't been targeting our manufacturers, our factories, our offices, nothing. They just seem to sprout up in random places. Back alleys around bars, shopping centers. One cropped up in the financial district, which I did some checking on, just in case it might have been something that might connect to us. However, despite the fact that he appeared in the financial district, he didn't seem to target any financial institutions. Once again, it was just running amok, seeming to attack anything and everything at random. Everything about it just leaves more questions, with no solid answers in anything and nothing to trace it back to the people responsible. Okay, well, do you have any nanotech that would do something like that to a person? Something experimental that your company's been producing or working on? Maybe something that somebody has been working on in their own time? No, that's of course the first thing I checked. Nanotech soldier enhancement is, well, illegal, which is why I've spoken to you about keeping your nanites a secret. Technically, they're banned by law, as super soldier experimentation. We do have a series of nanites that we've been creating for medical purposes to perform risky operations with a minimized level of hazard to the person being operated on. Reconstructive surgery, plastic surgery, even genetic alteration, but only for the sake of medicine. And all experiments within this region are closely monitored by the government. Despite my wealth and status, I am not allowed to simply experiment with whatever I want. My company can't perform inhuman experiments. We do have oversight. Anything that has to do with interaction with human beings, or any living creature for that matter, is stringently overseen. They know everything we're working on and every step we take on it when it comes to anything that interacts with a human. So, there's absolutely no room for anyone to slip out some nanites for personal experimentation. It's not as if nanites are easy to produce. Very few companies can do it. And most of our competitors focus on very base level nanites that facilitate very simple functions. They're not complex or well designed enough to achieve the sort of effects that you see here. And if they were trying to push into categories like that, they would be prompt to oversight just as well as we would. But just to be sure, I checked them out as well, and they appear by all outward means of investigation and insight to be perfectly clean. I don't think any of them are involved with this, or at least it doesn't appear that way. Okay, so to sum things up, we've got a big pile of jack squat, I replied, shaking my head. Damn it all. Another enemy, and no answers as to what their motives are, what their intentions, goals, and aspirations might be, or how they'd go about it. They seem to just be randomly releasing tech freaks, or maybe they're escaping somehow. No, that doesn't make sense. If they were escaping from someone, they probably wouldn't flaunt them as some sort of authoritarian, godlike entity, talking of them as mother, and saying that their legacy had been stolen away. I have to admit, that part does sound like Alexander, so I am glad that you brought this to my attention. It might just have something to do with him, but then again, it could just as easily be, well, a coincidence. I don't like it either way. Yes, I know. I feel the same. The question is what to do about it. I've been racking my brain over it for months and I've gotten nowhere. Well, maybe if we search for high-profile energy sources. What? My father replied. What are you getting at? Think about it, Dad. These tech freaks, they're the result of high technology experiments, right? If they're utilizing tech like that, the chances are that they're soaking up, well, mad amounts of energy. Producing the nanites, creating areas for the experiments, equipment to do analysis, infusions, or however it is that they get the nanites into them, if they are in fact nanotech. All of these things scream large amounts of equipment, and the really advanced kind. It's not the sort of thing that's gonna give you a low power bill. If they're doing this, they've probably got a lab, a big one, with lots of gear set up, which means that they're probably going to be soaking up a lot of power. So, if you really think about it, a good way to find them might be to try to scan places for power fluctuations. Areas that should have a low power yield, but for whatever reason are soaking up a lot more energy than other places. These would at least be good places to start looking. No, I'm sorry, son, but that's not going to work. What? Why not? I replied. Son, you're not in the Yellow District anymore. While electricity and power may be difficult to come by in the outside, inside of Newgate City, this city is nothing but power. It flows through every crack and crevice, into every home and every corner, in amounts that would astonish the mind. The amount of energy that we use on a daily basis in this city equates to nearly 10 times that of what might have been used in an old world city. It's staggering, son, and it's everywhere. There are no low energy locations. Everywhere is high energy, and uses substantial amounts of power. Biotech has created generators capable of producing near limitless amounts of energy, which have greatly boomed our city. However, it has also massively increased energy use. People no longer have to worry about an electric bill. There's no such thing in Newgate City. We don't even heavily monitor where the power goes. We just pump it out in ridiculous amounts. And we only really get called if something goes wrong, if there are power outages, things of that nature. So, even if we did a sweep of the city looking for high output energy levels, we would just find them everywhere. Once again, nothing gives me nothing, I said, scratching my head. Well, that's one idea down. I suppose this is just going to have to be one we'll have to work on. Yes, well, currently, we don't see too many of these tech freaks. Over the last year since they started emerging, we've seen approximately 15. At first, they would come out only once every other month or so. But as of late, their production capabilities seem to have gone up. We're seeing more and more of them, and their quality seems to be getting better. As I said, the first ones were unstable, even destroying themselves at times. But these new ones seem not only far more durable, but have a much greater range of destructive capabilities. And it was at that point that it hit me. Oh, that's what happened, I said, clutching at my forehead. What? Did you figure something out? Yeah, I figured out how this whole thing started. Not the tech freaks. I'm talking about me entering the Black Label races in the first place. How an XPC, a highly advanced piece of military tech, ended up so heavily damaged. It was most likely one of the ones damaged during these tech freak attacks. And, according to Lilith, someone hacked into biotech's systems and rerouted that XPC to be dropped off with a weapons dump. This whole thing gives me a headache. Was it the Believer who did that? No, that can't be. Or could it? If the Believer was responsible for transferring that XPC into the garbage dump, then it would also stand to reason that he might have something to do with these tech freaks. But that doesn't seem plausible if he's actually trying to help us. Why would he be working with the people producing those things? Did he just take advantage of it? That guy gives me some serious questions. I mean, by all aspects, at least the ones that I've had through the messages he's sent, say that he's on my side. But I don't know who he is, why he wants to help, why he calls himself the Believer, and seems to have this faith in me despite the fact that I don't know him from Adam. And still, his recording talked about his plans, that he was playing some sort of a dangerous game, which stands to reason that if he's playing a game, then he's playing it with someone else, which means that there's other players in the game, other people moving pieces, not just the Believer. He's playing against someone, at least one person. At first, I suspected that it might just be Alexander, but with these new tech freak developments, I'm starting to think that Alexander might just be an afterthought. As unpleasant as that thought is, I do want to kind of rip that guy a new one, but he might not be the most dangerous thing on the market. The only thing that's clear is that nothing seems to be clear.